The rescue that wasn't authorized. The exercise had an aim so plain it was easy to forget. Fleet Coordination Drill 17. Cadets usually remembered drills by their blunders. Rebecca Swan remembered them by how quiet they were. She sat strapped into the cockpit of a United Earth Federation training craft, hands resting lightly on controls she was not expected to touch. Around her, 31 other ships held position in perfect formation. Fleet Coordination Drill 17. Outer envelope navigation. It was not a combat simulation. It was not a rescue scenario. It was a demonstration of silence. 37 ships moved through deep space without active communication. No voice channels, no tactical chatter, no calls for corrections at all. The fleet relied entirely on preloaded parameters, encrypted timing windows, and passive light-based coordination cues. To an outside observer, it would have looked lifeless. To those inside, it was precision taken to its extreme. Rebecca Swan flew near the edge of the formation, assigned to an outer observer slot where deviation would be immediately visible and instantly corrected by the fleet's automation. The placement was deliberate. Cadets who could not maintain discipline without constant instruction did not belong on the perimeter. Her ship was a UEF training craft, compact, underpowered by design. It carried no heavy weapons and no authority. Its purpose was not to dominate space, but to teach restraint within it. The cockpit was narrow, utilitarian, and quiet. No decorative elements, no comfort features, just controls, displays, and a seat molded to keep the pilot still during long periods of inactivity. Rebecca liked it. The craft did not ask questions. It did exactly what it was told. The fleet's coordination relied on passive indicators only. Navigation lights shifted by fractions of intensity. Hull markings shifted to indicate timing changes. Thruster burns were scheduled hours in advance and executed without confirmation. If Rebecca spoke, no one would answer. If she acted, everyone would notice. That was the point. The boundary of the training volume glowed softly on her display, rendered in Federation blue. Everything inside it was part of the exercise. Everything outside it was irrelevant by definition. That assumption had to be absolute. Until a single indicator flickered. Low priority. Civilian frequency band, signal strength barely above background radiation. Rebecca did not react immediately. Jumping the gun in drills is way worse than missing something. One mistake can ruin everything. Any unauthorized transmission would flag her craft. She observed, the signal wasn't a broadcast. It wasn't a distress call meant to be heard. It was unstructured noise, bleeding into open space the way heat escapes from a fractured hull. Old civilian hardware. She narrowed her sensor filters by a negligible margin. Not enough to register as active scanning. Just enough to clarify the noise. The interference resolved into shape. A civilian research skiff, small and armed, drifting without propulsion. Minimal rotation, which suggested controlled shutdown rather than violent failure. Life support readings fluctuated, not collapsing, cycling. That detail tightened something in her chest. Cycling meant the system was still fighting. Distance calculations placed the skiff just outside the training boundary. Not far, just right on the edge. Outside mission parameters. Outside assigned responsibility. Rebecca logged the signal. Without comment. The report moved through automation layers faster than human oversight ever could. Time-stamped, classified, forwarded. The response returned exactly as expected. Signal acknowledged. Authorization pending. Maintain exercise parameters. Authorization pending meant silence. Silence meant delay. Delay meant people suffocating quietly while systems argued about jurisdiction. Rebecca recalculated fuel margins without touching her controls. Her training craft could reach the skiff. Barely. Doing so would violate orders, break formation, and end her training permanently. She also calculated how long the skiff's life support could last if nothing changed. The numbers were not kind. She did not argue. She did not transmit. She did not break formation. Because in this exercise, communication itself was deviation. Instead, she reviewed the exercise framework. Fleet Coordination Drill 17 emphasized formation elasticity under hypothetical threat conditions. Reconfiguration was permitted, provided it remained within doctrinal boundaries and required no verbal coordination. That detail mattered. Rebecca submitted a request, not a course change, not a deviation, an optimization. She suggested slightly expanding the outer patrol area to handle sensor confusion, a slower drift correction to maintain formation integrity under projected threat uncertainty. The request contained no reference to the skiff. It didn't need to. The approval came back automated but approved. Implement at next cycle. No alarms sounded. No voices spoke. No protocols were broken. The fleet adjusted. Thrusters fired in precise, scheduled intervals. The formation changed shape smoothly, as if the maneuver had always been part of the plan. From outside, nothing looked different. From Rebecca's cockpit, the skiff slid closer, still distant, still irrelevant on paper, but now within a margin where passive systems overlapped. The logistics tender's power envelope brushed the skiff's failing systems. No docking, just proximity. The effect was immediate. Life support stabilized. Oxygen cycling smooth. Temperature loss slowed to survivable levels. No rescue had occurred. No intervention had been logged. The skiff simply stopped dying. Rebecca said nothing. There was nothing to say. Authorization arrived 13 minutes later. Formal, polite, perfectly timed to be unnecessary. Command cleared recovery procedures. Medical standby, docking. Approvals. By then, the skiff no longer required emergency action. The exercise concluded without incident. The fleet returned to baseline formation. Thrusters quieted. Silent coordination resumed as if nothing had happened. Rebecca powered down her training craft with the same precision she had maintained throughout the drill. 2 days later, she was summoned. Not to a tribunal. Not to a hearing. Just a room. A table. One officer reviewing formation data in silence. The officer did not ask about the skiff. They did not ask about the signal. They asked only one question. Was your maneuver intentional, Cadet Swan? Rebecca answered without hesitation, yes, sir. The officer nodded once. A note was entered into her record. Demonstrates initiative within doctrinal boundaries. No praise. No warning. Just acknowledgement. Later, alone. Rebecca replayed the exercise logs. She understood then what the demonstration had truly about. Silence was not the absence of control. It was trust. The Federation did not want pilots to react loudly. It wanted pilots who could operate inside a system so disciplined that deviation itself became a language. Outside her viewport, a fleet passed in quiet formation, blotting out stars as it moved. Rebecca Swan watched them, and for the first time, she did not just admire their precision, she understood their design.
Stay subscribed. Best is yet to come.